Hello everybody, this is Professor Hill, and this is another short video for our class, Introduction to Ethics, Philosophy 2306 here at St. Philip's College. And today is Tuesday, the 13th of February, 2018, and this is the beginning of week 5. We're looking at chapter 5 in our textbook, Doing Ethics by Vaughn. And yesterday, I said, look, this chapter is about consequentialism. It drills down on the moral theory that the way to determine the right course of action, what's good and bad, right and wrong, the way to ground that is in the consequences, the outcomes. We've got a difficult choice to make. We want to look at the outcomes and predict what's going to be the best outcome according to some standard. And like I said yesterday, that standard is broken down into, is it best for me or is it best for all of us as a group, the most good for the most people? That's kind of the two big breakdowns. Well, so I want to back up and talk about the first part of that, what's best for me, because as you'll see in chapter 5, he makes a distinction between two different types of this ethical egoism, having the consequence be about what's best for me. And that distinction is between act-egoism and rule-egoism. And it's this simple. Again, the key to this definition is in the name of it, the title of it. The first is just focused on the act itself. If you're trying to make a choice between two things, act A and act B, go left or right, the question is, for act-egoism, the question is, which act gives me the best outcome, the best consequence? That's a little different than the next piece we're distinguishing it from, which is rule-egoism. Still the focus is on the consequence, still the focus is on me. But now we want to say that, look, if we're going to build a moral theory, we want it to not be at the level of the specific act, but at a rule. We want to say that, look, maybe there's a rule, and the rule, if this act, choosing act A or A B, falls under this rule. And the rule will give me a guidance, a touchstone in which to say, look, if I follow this rule, then the act that follows it is going to be the best thing for me. So it's just a kind of a second level or second order focus. It's about consequentialism. It's about me. One's about the particular act, and another is, does that act fall underneath a rule that I can then use to make ethical decisions? They're guided by the one other thing he talks about in our book, Psychological Egoism, which he defines simply as the view that the motive for all of our actions is self-interest. Now, people that try to assert this, it's kind of this frustrating cyclical logic, but it's you can see where this goes, which is, well, look, you're doing everything. Every motivation for every action is what's best for you. And your initial reaction might be, well, no, a lot of times I do things, I make choices, I make even sacrifices for other people. And they say, oh, yes, but you're only doing that because you think that's the best way for you to act. It's like the little boy, the Cub Scout that walks the little old lady across the street. The little Boy Scout might say, well, I'm helping the old lady because it's best for her. But you can kind of stand on the sidewalk and go, no, no, no. Look, he's doing it to make himself feel better. He thinks, I'm being a good Cub Scout. I'm doing the right thing. This is about me, not about the old lady. And in fact, because of that, every choice, even the ones I think are for other people, are really about me. Well, as you can tell, I'm a little cynical about that because I think that people do act for altruistic motivations. They act to help other people. They sacrifice for other people. And I'd be happy to grant that sometimes people might have several layers of motives. But it's not like there's a pretext and then a real one, and the real one is always you're doing it to make yourself feel better. I just think that that's too simplistic. I had a friend who drove me crazy with this for a long time. He kind of stumbled across this and thought it was really clever. And so no matter what you would say to him, what example, he would just kind of say, and that makes you feel better about yourself. And that makes you feel better about yourself. And which was kind of frustrating because he seemed more concerned about being irritating and thinking that he had somehow found this clever, oh, I got a trump card. I can just throw that down no matter what. And it trumps anything you say. But when you pull it apart, there's a couple of examples. One of which is just the fact that people not only sacrifice for others, and again, you can see how the logic might go, well, but they're sacrificing because they think that makes them feel better about themselves, and they're going to get other people are going to think they're great, and all of that's about themselves. But I'm like, yeah, not with, for example, members of the armed forces who not only risk their lives but sacrifice their lives to save other people. It's the old story about the hand grenade. The guy jumps on the hand grenade to absorb the blast and save everyone else in his platoon. Well, I got to tell you, I don't think that's an example of someone who's acting in their own best self-interest. You can't convince me that somehow, even then, well, they think this is the most heroic thing to do, so they're acting to glorify themselves. I'm like, not up to and including dying, because they're not going to be able to sit around later and reflect upon their heroism and go get medals if they're being awarded posthumously. So it's the fact of the matter is, I think there are limits to this. And my friend, by the way, who famously taunted me about this, I spoke with him recently, and the big difference between then and now is that he had gotten married and he has a daughter. And I said, so everything you do for your daughter, late nights with the baby, getting up in the middle of the night, changing diapers and doing all that, you're doing that because that makes you feel good, right? He was like, shut up. So I'm like, okay. I do think that it's possible, like I said, to have many motives and to have some be about ourselves, but also I don't think that somehow necessarily negates or erases, all altruism in the world. I don't think it works like that. So there are going to be other motivations. And then what will happen is tomorrow we'll get into the principle of utility and the greatest happiness principle, and we can talk some more about them. We just wanted today to break up this part about the difference between an act and a rule, and using that as a framework for making ethical decisions as we go forward. So that's our short lesson for today. It's, like I said, Tuesday, the 13th of February. We're getting week 5 off to a good start here. Read chapter 5, and then I'll get that case study up for us. That'll be due Sunday night. For now, take care, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.